So when we get up here to the collar on the front of our steelhead fly, building this out is pretty simplistic using a few tools that just kind of help along the way. So what I do is I take a initial dubbing loop, and I'm just kind of wrapping to make sure that the end of that loop is nice and sealed. What I'll do is I'll go ahead and throw in my shepherd hook on my gator grip, and I like to keep it down against my table so it's not going to roll, spin, and close up my loop moving forward. So as I move over from the fly to my desk area, what I want to do is I'm going to take out some dubbing, and I'm going to try to align the fibers to the length that I want to build this collar. You can pick up some of your flash materials at this point, and I don't love even lengths because nature is very much so imperfect, and I'm going to want it trimmed up anyways. So what I'll do here is I'll just take and lay in random strips of some flash, not too much flash, but just enough to bring attention of fish. And with all honesty, it doesn't matter which way it goes, in my opinion. Some people may tell you otherwise. Next up, this is a pretty cool barred ostrich feather. It's dyed pink and purple for coastal steelhead. And I'm just going to go ahead and take out like 10 to 15 pieces of this ostrich. And this one I'm going to make sure I have some mostly good tips. So I just kind of look at it, see where I like it, and then gauge my length there, because I'm going to try to keep the butt of this towards the core of this dubbing loop that we're going to create. And this is a little bit of a tedious task. I mean, you just got to kind of place onesie twosies inside of your dubbing loop. And this creates a really good separation of materials. That was a few extra there. And when we spin this, it just ends up looking pretty sweet. So from here, my trick is, what I do is I kind of compress what I want to put into my dubbing loop. I come in on the non-compressed edge, and I pick the whole operation up just with the D-loop tweezers. I can then look at it, figure out how I'm going to put this into this dubbing loop. So the next thing I do is I will come in and I make sure all of my fibers are on one side, and I'm going to go ahead and squeeze nice and wide. You want to make sure you open your jaws all the way and maintain tension in your opposite hand. From here, you have kind of a nice set of bit of freedom to operate and kind of just compress where you want everything. I'm going to maintain tension up here and create my spin down below. So as I slide down, you're going to see I'm allowing the spin to go into the dubbing loop. From there, just take a little dubbing comb, and I just free up any of the loose fibers that are not going to stay. And we can go ahead at this point and give it another good spin. Sometimes your crystal flash will start to get caught. But everything's pretty fairly locked in there now. Nothing's going to break. And using a GSP thread here is pretty darn important. So I'm going to get to the point where the wraps actually start to matter. And what I'll do is I'll actually just grab this and fold it all backwards. And I'll just keep bending backwards as much as possible here. And you just want to free up all of those little fibers. And from here, I go behind my dubbing loop, and I just make sure that I've got this really locked in, and then do compressing wraps, kind of like you spin deer hair. We're going to add in just a little bit of pink up front here. And this is actually like pink with flash, and I'm going to use a little other pink as well that doesn't have flash built into it. It's a little bit more translucent. So you can see I'm going to compress the butt end of that fiber in really well. Grab a little bit of this secondary pink that's more translucent. Again, just capturing the butt end of that fiber. And now I'm going to build a really solid thread base that we can wrap a few wraps on this. Now you could go about this just willy-nilly, but what's really fun is that you can actually spin these together into a singular. You can take multiple stranded materials and get it together into one rope, creating your own colorway. So if you wanted to add black or any other color in the world, you can do this using the gator grip attachment, which kind of forms just a secondary loop. This will create just a little bit of flash on the front of this fly. And we'll just put in a securing wrap. And trim that off. From here, I'm going to make sure all these fibers are nice and secure. And we'll go ahead and brush through this as well. And we're just going to finish off with just a little bit more dubbing that we used inside on the front. We'll flip it over and do pretty much the same thing there. And throw in just a little hand whip finish here. I'll just put a little bit of flow on the front for added durability and cure for about that 5 to 10 seconds.